My name is Willie Maritz. I'm the founder of a company called Kaleo People Group. It's a group of companies broadly in the space of people technologies and learning technologies. And we basically look at innovating how we manage people and how people learn. So I've basically over the last 20 years of my career focused specifically on the science of learning and specifically for adults, not education. So I want to share some thoughts with you about how things are changing for us as adults in learning and education. And I'm going to be quite fast because unfortunately I have a hard stop to be out of here at 1:15, so I hope you can listen fast. I'm going to try and talk fast. So this concept of a course so the whole science of education, or pedagogy, has been around this concept of a course. And a course is this thing that starts here and ends here, and we typically test whether you have now mastered, and then we give you a badge and we say thou art now competent, or you are now an engineer or a doctor, or you can now drive this forklift truck or whatever it is. This course is actually a sequence of compromises that were made over many years, and I'll show you why and how. So the concept was actually started by these Greek philosophers, and they were the first people that actually formalized education by basically saying, okay, so I have wisdom, I have things to teach, and rich people would actually ask them to mentor, teach their children. And the demand grew, so one philosopher ended up having 10, 20, 30 kids sitting at his feet wanting to be taught. So they got to a point where they actually said and realized, but actually this thing is not really that viable. So, and it started the story or the history of what we call training today. So we all still know that probably one-on-one works best. I think most of us would agree. If I want to learn something and if I want to get the best possible education, I need to go and sit at the feet of a master. And this master is going to help me. It could be my dad teaching me how to change the chain on a motorbike. It could be my mom teaching me how to do my hair, or how to actually do an advanced math calculation, whatever it is. So, but that one-on-one is just not economical, so we made a compromise. We said, okay, so we are going to start going into this training, which is one-to-many. That one-to-many had its own problem because quite quickly we realized that actually the specialist, we actually need to actually go and apply his trade. He doesn't have time to train. So let's get somebody else to train, let's get a trainer. So the science of training evolved. Which is again a compromise. So now we're actually not even learning from that master anymore. So then we said, let's develop the science of facilitation. Because I'm not the master anymore, I need to be a facilitator of knowledge. Again, another compromise. So that facilitator of knowledge, the importance of the sage on the stage started depleting even further, because more and more people had access to alternative streams of information, whether it's the internet or books and so on. So people started challenging in the classroom or in the learning context. So we end up with this thing called a course that's you're actually not learning from a master, you're actually learning from an instructional designer. Even the science of instructional design nowadays is actually the science of structuring content to meet certain learning outcomes. So it's all about how do you analyze content, put this, so here's learning outcomes, so we put this and this together, and that's there, put it in a training manual or in a slide deck. So we worked out the structure of presenting information for people to consume and remember, maybe if in an even better course for people to actually practice and master and show competence. But this whole thing was a series of compromises. So what we are saying is that we actually don't have to live with this compromise anymore, because this concept of a course was started because we couldn't do then what we can actually do now with technology. And that's the good news. With technology, we can actually re-script all of these compromises that we've done over time and go back to learning how we're supposed to learn. Go back to, for example, learning directly from a master. One of the biggest teaching or education startups in the world right now is a company called Masterclass based in Silicon Valley. I have had the privilege of working with the founder earlier in the year. And basically what he did is he had this crazy idea of going to real masters of their craft and asking them to work with him to create a series of videos. So he actually worked specifically with celebrities. So he would go to Serena Williams and say, let's teach people how to play tennis like you. And they create this, and he pays typically $1 million per educator. So he paid $1 million to create a set of teaching on how to play tennis. He went to Richard Branson. He went to Malcolm Gladwell. So he goes to real masters, pays them a shitload of money, and says, let's get the real teaching out to people directly. And they're one of the fastest education startups in the world right now. They've already got over $10 million in funding to scale. So this is what we can do right now. Another big thing that influences how we learn is this whole thing of attention span. Now, I think many of you have heard this, and it's kind of typically said in jest, but there is actually some research to this. So this Statistic Brain Research Institute concluded in 2000 that on average we have an attention span of 12 seconds. That has actually declined to 8.2 seconds, and the goldfish is about 9 seconds. It is in jest, but there is actually a reality to how we are influenced, and that reality to our social context is driven primarily by technology and social media. A company called The Degree did this survey. They basically surveyed that among the top 500 companies in the world, they asked those 500 companies to give me who were people that were top talent in your organization and that has left your organization, that you regarded as top talent. And they interviewed those people. So, and they asked them, for example, so when you needed to learn, so these people were outside the organization, so they had a degree of objectivity to providing feedback, which is why they specifically asked for that target audience. So, when I need to learn, where are you going to get your learning? So 70% I'm actually just going to Google it. 42% said I will go and look for a live or an online course on the internet, and only 12% said I'll go to my training department. Does that ring true for you? Any of you are in corporate context?
Ringing my bell.
Yeah. So how many of you, they also asked them, how many of you completed a course of any kind in the last two years? Now, here, pay attention again to the context here. These are people who were regarded as top talent. So I'm Absa, this person is top talent, and this person leaves, and that person gets interviewed and asked how many formal courses have you attended? 23% of people were regarded as top talent. So some of you might have heard of this concept. So learning and development practitioners typically are quite well aware of this concept of the 70-20-10 principle, where we're basically saying 70% of what we learn, we actually learn in an informal way by doing stuff, by trying out things, by burning my finger on the stove. 20% we learn socially from my mentor, my coach, my manager, my peers, my friends, and only 10% we actually learn in a formal learning context. So with technology, we can actually sway this right back and because the risk with that is that there's no quality assurance in what I learn. Or what I learn in this site. And there's no tracking of what I learn in this site. So with technology, we can actually say, okay, go and learn in whatever format it comes, wherever you can find it, find the best information, but we can still track and give you credit for that. As learning and development practitioners, we also believe that it's our job to edutain. We believe it's our job to make you learn, to create a learning experience that will engage you and that will help you. But meanwhile, now this is actually not true. Meanwhile, our students actually learn in spite of us. But the opposite is true as well. They are doing stuff when we think they are learning, and they're also learning when we think they are doing other stuff. So you might be sitting here looking me in the eye, and I think you might be listening, but meantime your mind is off somewhere else. You might be sitting on your cell phone, and I think you are on a different planet, but meanwhile you're actually researching something that you just heard that you thought was interesting and curious, and that is real learning. So real learning starts when you start to explore, when your mind is triggered into curiosity, not when your mind is absorbing and trying to store information or trying to remember information. So the rabbit hole effect, as it comes from Alice in Wonderland, is basically about allowing us to actually go down a rabbit hole, going in a left side direction with something that stimulated our minds. And typically in learning design, we're actually deliberately preventing people from going off somewhere. We're deliberately trying to keep people to a structure and a journey of learning so that we can check a box and say, we've covered everything that should be covered according to the subject matter experts or according to the Sector Education and Training Authority. So what we really should be doing is just be able to stimulate your passion for learning. And I often say to large learning organizations or large organizations, the learning departments that we work with typically as clients, say if you do nothing else, if you design no new curriculum, if you design no new content, if you buy new content, just do one thing. Teach people how to learn and reignite people's passion to learn and develop themselves over time. We know that when it comes to top performers in the workplace, that it's actually not the top academic performers. There is very little correlation between academic performance in school or university and top performance and retention in the workplace. What is actually a good indicator or a good predictor of performance would be these two. Firstly, can people understand? In other words, can you make sense of stuff, new information in your context, and can you innovate? Innovate primarily comes from the ability to take information and context from one context, learn something new in a different context, and actually say, actually, I can take what I've learned here right in this context, and I can innovate in this context. Leonardo da Vinci is generally known as probably the best and the most well-known innovator of all time, and he's been an astronomer, mathematician, engineer, artist, medical practitioner, everything. So the more we are able to actually reignite our passion for learning across our profession or our narrow set of information, the more we are likely to be innovators and high performers in the workplace. So let's help people to learn again, and let's teach them what learning is about. So learning skills is probably something that I'm very passionate about, is to rediscover what learning skills are. And how can I help people to develop those learning skills? Firstly, just the basic ability to read. It is just, you can have a look at this all over, almost in any context. Those that are not able to read, or not at a certain standard of being able to read, are at a distinct disadvantage in the workplace and in career. Read, read, read. Teach your children to read. Help them with discovering that passion to read, because they will not be able to keep up if they can't read. They must be able to read fast. They must be able to determine what they're going to read. They must be able to retain good information from what they read. They must be able to choose information, to choose what information is valid, valuable, and credible. They must be able to share information, just like in social media. There are different ways to share information. So I can share information by just pasting something on Facebook or on LinkedIn, and very few people will actually react to this. But by a short little, the way I share it, the way I caption it, will make a massive difference in people engaging. And again, why is this important for my learning? Because when people engage in what I share and discuss in a professional context, they add to my learning. So when I just discovered a new article, let's say I am an engineer in water desalination, just saw a new article about new filtration technology. I think it's important, and my choices are I can just share it, and some people will look at it and say, okay, he shared an article. Or I can share it with a caption or an interesting question or an opinion. Say, I think this new filtration system will actually help us to scale water desalination from so many cubic meters per day to so many. What do you think? And that little engagement gets other people involved in my learning, stimulates their learning, and together we learn better. The quality of the learning experience is increased. So the sharing and collaboration works together there. The ability to question, the ability to ask intelligent questions, the ability to actually move that one step on from just absorbing content and remembering content to critically questioning, analyzing, and asking interesting questions about what you've just learned. That takes my learning from just absorbing information to applying, to application considerations, to innovation, etc. And the last one is about digital literacy. And I'm not talking about computer literacy to the extent where I know where to switch on the computer and I know how to use a mouse. Not that that's relevant anymore. I'm talking about the ability to understand the art of the possible with technology. In the fourth industrial revolution, we used the terminology of the industrialization of technology a lot. Basically what it means is I don't have to be an IT guy to use technology to achieve significant innovation and significant performance in my world. Just as an example, I'm busy as almost as a side venture setting up an online retail shop for motorbike apparel, which is one of my passions. And it took us about 3 hours to set up the shop completely with e-commerce, credit card payments, being able to receive everything set up, connected to a bank account, everything in 3 hours. And we didn't have to do any coding. That's the democratization of technology. So if I understand the ability, the art of the possible of technology in my area, in my profession, and apply it to make things easier or faster, to solve problems, and even use technology that I've seen in a different context and apply it in my context, that's when I'm able to add more value than the next person that competes for me in a career or in a business environment. So we need to be able to be skilled at finding, evaluating, creating, and effectively using information. That is what we need to teach, and that is what will help people around us to be more effective in the workplace. And I'll conclude with Thomas Berger that says, the art and science of asking questions is the source of all knowledge. The course is dead, and long live learning. Thank you.